Nothing is done till it's done when it comes to Iran and US. Once the clauses are there and you see what it is all about, then only you can say whether Iranians came on the top or whether the Americans came on top or whether it was a win-win for both. Prime Minister Narendra Modi would like to hear what the Americans have achieved with the Iranians, prickly issues that maybe come up for the meeting. The death of 3 Indian sailors, the call between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his US counterpart Marco Rubio did not go off very well. It was a very tough call. This moral high that the US and the West used to take, that moral high is not there. Once the Iranians thing and the nuclear thing goes down, so the relevance of Pakistan will reduce. India has to fight on its own. It's not like, it's somebody from Europe is going to come or somebody from America is going to come.
Hello and a very warm welcome to all. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aayesha Varma. Today we talk about the possible end to the Iran war after months of chaos, uncertainty and violence. Joining us is HT's executive editor, Mr. Shishir Gupta. Sir, namaskar. Sir, as far as the Iran-US deal is concerned, is it workable? Are there any pitfalls?
US President Donald Trump has announced that he is going to lift the blockade. And he has said that the deal is going to be signed on Friday, right? Coming Friday. That is on June 19th. Nothing is done till it's done when it comes to Iran and US, seriously. When it comes to these two combatants and particularly when it comes to the third party, which is a critical party in this, is Israel. There is something which the Americans are letting out of the deal and then there is something which the Iranians are letting out of the deal. But the one thing is for certain is that, it's a very welcome sign that the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz is going to be lifted and that Strait of Hormuz is going to be, ready for, global energy traffic. There are many questions in this. Initially, an interim arrangement is going to be signed and subsequently 60 days will be used to basically, come out with what is going to be the nuclear agreement between the two sides, which is a very critical part of it. The devil actually lies in detail because till such time the US does not get Iran to give up on its enriched uranium, the deal is virtually a no deal because that is why that was the first military objective of the war that was waged 3.5 months ago. So if you let go of that, then why did you fight in the very first place? Strait of Hormuz is basically a secondary objective for US and for Israel. One is the nuclear issue. 2 is the ballistic missile issue. 3 is the Iranian proxies operating all around Israel. Now these people are growing in power. They have longer range missiles. They can target Israel. Once it is signed, once the clauses are there and you see what it is all about, then only you can say whether Iranians came on the top or whether the Americans came on top or whether it was a win-win for both. Now, the Iranians are saying that, they actually, they stood up to America for 3.5 months. So, for them, it's a victory. The Americans can only have a victory if they can actually emasculate Iran on the nuclear front, on the ballistic missile front. It's a very welcome thing that has happened. India would be very happy because as long as the oil traffic goes, Indian problems and the economy is going to sort of, kickstart again. It's 60 days of ceasefire. The oil prices have gone down. People are looking positively towards the entire thing. The US armada is going to go out. Iranian assets will possibly be defreezed. All hinges on one thing, nuclear. Because if Iran does not give up on its enriched uranium, then this deal is not going to be any different from the deal that Barack Obama signed in 2015. So let's see what happens on the Iranian posture towards the Gulf countries. And only then we can say actually that, President Donald Trump came out a winner. Iran can always say this, that listen, you tried a regime change you could not achieve. Iran can always say that, listen, I actually hold a huge leverage on Strait of Hormuz because it's talking in terms of maintenance fees, it's talking in terms of security fees, so on and so forth. But I'm just purely reporting on what the Iranian media is saying. For America, it will be a very big plus if the Iranians give up on enriched uranium. Second thing is, as long as Iran controls its proxies like Hezbollah, like Houthis, like Kataib Hezbollah and all, those who surround Israel, if that happens, then it is also a plus for the stability of the Middle East. Let it first be signed and then we'll talk about it.
So, out of curiosity, is there any word, any whisper of Russia playing a role as far as enriched uranium is concerned? Because there is a history there between Iran and Russia, where Russia has taken hold of enriched uranium in the past. Beyond this, recently, Russia has also offered to do so that a peace deal could take place.
No, as far as the Americans are saying, and they are very clear, they say that you deposit the uranium, enriched uranium with the under IAEA's safeguards, which could be at any third country.
Okay.
Now the point is, why would Americans allow Russians into this entire game? Right? Why would tomorrow they'll say that we'll give the entire enriched uranium to China? Why would they allow that? I mean, the war is between these two countries. There has to be a party which is neutral in this, that can hold on to uranium, which would be the IAEA, ideally. Now, bringing in a third major power in this entire game does not help in anybody's case. Russia may have offered this as fine, but the point is, will the Americans agree to it? Now, if the Americans agree to it, then President Donald Trump is opening a third front where he's already been accused in the past of being close to the Russians.
Okay. Now, looking ahead at a significant meeting that's going to be taking place, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet with the US President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the G7. They are meeting after about 1.5 years. What is expected?
See, I'm told Prime Minister Narendra Modi is meeting US President Donald Trump on June 17th at Evian on the sidelines of the G7 summit. The meeting is after 1.5 years, and during that time, a lot of things have happened. One was the Operation Sindoor, for which President Donald Trump takes credit for stopping it. Second thing is the tariff war that was waged against India, which continues. Third thing is the Iran war, the Strait of Hormuz, the oil crisis, and various other things that have been playing out, Quad, Europe. There's a lot of ground to cover between the two leaders. The main thing that is going to be discussed is the Iran deal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi would like to hear what the Americans have achieved with the Iranians when it comes to holding a 60-day interim ceasefire before they go into the nuclear talks. The trade deal is also going to be discussed. India has been levied 12.5% under 301 provisions for using forced labor. Countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam, who all actually import a lot from China, have been levied 10%. Now, first thing that happened was that there was a reciprocal tariff which the US Supreme Court struck down. Second thing was that India is now looking at an alternate tariff, but that has to be a competitive tariff. It has to be a tariff which competes with other countries which export to US, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Vietnam. If the tariff is going to be competitive, it's fine. If India does not get competitive tariff, then there'll be a lot of issues. Now, the US may actually come up with one more leverage by saying that, they can put another sanction saying that, increase tariff by saying you have excess capacities. I think all this is leverage, and ultimately, it is the consumer who pays the tariff. It's not the exporter. Third thing, the two sides will talk on bilateral issues, and there have been certain supply chain issues that are taking place, particularly in the supply of F404 engines to India. What is the Indian perception of the regional security environment, the global security environment, the energy security, because it will take some time for the global economy to actually stabilize even after the Strait of Hormuz opens. And what happens next? And then plus, China, Russia, Ukraine war, everything is going to be discussed on the table. But there are a lot of, other issues, prickly issues that maybe come up for the meeting. The death of 3 Indian sailors, during recently when the Americans targeted a tanker off the Gulf of Oman, in which 3 Indians lost their lives. Now that is going to be raised up by the Prime Minister. The call between External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his US counterpart Marco Rubio did not go off very well. It was a very tough call. The Indian External Affairs Minister made it very clear that use of deadly force was unjustified. The Secretary Rubio made it a point saying that actually they were violating by not answering and not answering to the Americans, saying that you don't sort of avoid the blockade. He justified it. External Affairs Minister made it very clear there was no reason for them to use deadly force. And he was very critical about it. So the meeting actually, it did not result in any solution. They actually talked past each other. So that is going to be one serious issue because, the Indian lives were lost. And Prime Minister Modi is very clear that, Indians cannot be a collateral damage to anything because we are not party to that war. All in all, there are a whole lot of pluses in the relationship also. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump know how to communicate to each other. India actually has to thank US President Donald Trump for a whole lot of things. By pushing India on tariff, by pushing India on the Indo-Pak skirmish, he actually made India realize that, India has to do things on its own. It has to start its own manufacturing. It has to start its own, export of Indian defense equipment. Second thing is that President Donald Trump has also made it very clear, that there are three things that have happened over there. He exposed the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and he showed how the big people in this world are compromised by exploiting women and children. So the entire US, UK, Europe, everybody was there, and a lot of other people also all over the globe. And then second thing was that he also sort of, came out in the open as to how the elections were being manipulated by people like former FBI chief, former CIA chief, former, enforcement chiefs. Were using, they were close to that establishment, the Democrat establishment. And the third thing that he did was that, recently, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard came out very clearly that, US was funding gain of function labs. So all this moral high that the US and the West used to take, that moral high is not there. While President Donald Trump was very clear in calling it a China virus, his successors didn't even have the guts to even say where the virus came from. And you lost 20 million people in that because somebody was doing some research which actually leaked out and caused this huge damage, global damage to the world. It's going to be a very interesting meeting because the two can talk absolutely upfront to each other, and they have a personal relationship also. But it is basically President Donald Trump's US first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's India first. So let's see where the two intersect positively.
Now, talking about America, let's also take a look at one of their allies. With the entire Iran-US deal imminent, do you think that Pakistan is likely to come out as a winner, considering that they have mediated in the past?
See, the fact remains is that Pakistan and Qatar have mediated for the agreement, the interim agreement that is going to be signed. There is some buzz about the Saudi Arabians also backing up the Qataris on the entire thing. I'm not too sure on that part of it. Pakistan will definitely try and take advantage of this role that they have played, because after all, the Pakistani generals have always been very favorite of the American establishment, be it Ayub Khan, be it Yahya Khan, be it Ziaul Haq, be it Asim Munir. He's his favorite field marshal. Pakistan has tried to project itself as now one of the mainstream countries rather than a place from where terrorism comes out. So one is that. Second thing, it will try and sort of take some sort of guarantees from the Americans vis-a-vis India, because its all problems lie, and its all things is all focused on India as to how it can put India down. So maybe it will get some good equipment, maybe it will try and get some money through the Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank. Maybe it will get relief in FATF and sort of have a role in the Middle East. It's already a major defense ally of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. So Pakistan definitely comes out as a plus. There's no question about it. But the problem is that Pakistan plays both sides. It will play with US, it will play with China. It is buying equipment from China, it is buying equipment from America. It's also very clear in this entire thing because both these two countries also wouldn't want India to really succeed in that way. But there is one thing which is of importance, is that, once the Iranian question is sorted out, then Middle East will actually calm down, because Iranians have been the main instigators of whatever has happened in the Middle East after 1979 revolution. So the Pakistani role is no longer there in Afghanistan because Afghanistan couldn't care a damn for Pakistan. The Iranians, once the Iranians thing and their nuclear thing goes down, then the peace will settle down over there. So the relevance of Pakistan will reduce. And that is where the Americans will start looking at other adversaries, which they should have been focusing in the very first place. That is primarily China and to some extent Russia.
Now, bouncing off of this, with China seen as there's somewhat of an Iron Brother association, Munir is, as you said, Trump's favorite general. Where does this leave India via Pakistan?
We always start looking at things, either through the eyes of America or through the eyes of China or through the eyes of Russia. We don't look at what is good for India.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the people talking about it. The left liberals would want India to sort of, just dump the American relationship in the Indian Ocean and actually start looking at China. But China is not even giving us an inch on the border. Okay, we are stuck on the peace and tranquility. I mean, the border is still to be demarcated despite all sorts of agreements, right? So there is this one part that actually says, America is a bad thing. You need to look at China. Then there is somebody who says, actually, you are stuck both ways because you neither with anything with China, you neither with anything with America. The point is that you are India. You've always been a country which has been looking after its own interests. I mean, it has not been pro-China, pro-Russia, pro-US. The fact remains is in 1962 war, find out what Russia did, find out what Americans did, and then you'll realize that India has to stand up on its own. The same thing happened in May 2020. Same thing happened in Doklam. So India, the Indians have to be pro-India. The Indian government has to be pro-Indian. So you have to talk about Indian interest. The Indian interest is to ensure that its people get oil. So it will buy Russian oil. The Indian interest is to ensure that Indian security is there so that they start looking at, how to look to contain, the various advancement of military equipment being acquired by Pakistan and China, how to handle ballistic missiles, how to handle the growing Pakistani Navy and the Chinese Navy. So Indian interests are different and India has to fight on its own. It's not like, it's somebody from Europe is going to come or somebody from America is going to come. So I don't think so India is in a bad place.
Okay. So now speaking about the Middle East and what's going to be taking place this week in terms of a signing ceremony on Friday, we also have to take a look at Israel. In the past, recently as well, Israel's strikes on Beirut have played spoiler as far as peace talks are concerned. And recently as well, the US president has come out to call the Israel PM, Benjamin Netanyahu, a difficult guy. What do you think about what's taking place between America and Israel as far as those ties are concerned?
See, America and Israel are very, very close. There is no question about it. I mean, it's one of the closest relationship you'll ever get because there is a huge amount of, Jewish community which is at the apex level and is actually somebody who can actually, is virtually dominating the American politics in many ways.
Okay.
So the relationship is very close. The relationship is, President Donald Trump is given to using various words, but the fact remains is the relationship is very stable. But the issue over here is that Israel cannot afford Hezbollah to target, the Israeli cities. And it's not so simple as what comes out that, Israel targeted Hezbollah. The instigation somehow starts from Hezbollah. The instigation starts from the Iranian proxies. And there is no other way around but for Israel to retaliate. There's no other question because the point is, if Israel does not retaliate and Hezbollah regroups, getting longer range weapons, then Israel, it's the very future of Israel is at stake. So that's where it is. I mean, ultimately, if the first target of a nuclear Iran is going to be Israel, it's not going to be US.
True.
Which is 10,000 kilometers away.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us and providing us with much more context. With that, it's a wrap, but do stay tuned and tune in for next week's segment of Point Blank.